Hello there, welcome back. And now I'm going to talk about Johnny Mnemonic, the black and white version. Which now I've also got the 101 films Johnny Mnemonic box set, which is very nice. I've talked about Johnny Mnemonic when I covered cyberpunk films in the past, so you get the interesting cover here, and you get a booklet, and you get the Japanese cut as well as the American theatrical cut and some commentaries and a variety of things in this. It's a very good set, this one actually. But this one you get the film plus you get a 25-minute talk with Will Gibson, Robert Longwood, the director, and Kenny Reeves, talking about the film and how it's made and all its problems and the reaction to the black and white version. Now, Johnny Mnemonic is a film I actually saw in the cinema when it was released in the mid-90s. By the time we got it over here, after the film was released like in 95 in America, we got it in 96 in the UK, early 96. And it was already known as a massive disaster of a film. It was hated by Americans. And it came over here and it got crucified critically here as well, because it was a film to kick. Everybody hated it. It did well in Japan, actually. But mostly it was hated, and the director never worked again as a film director. And there was always tales of problems on the production and issues, and which you can see in the film. They added a early scene which doesn't make any sense. There are additions throughout the film that were made to try and make the lead character more sympathetic, even though the lead character was not meant to be sympathetic. He was meant to be a bit of a prick. You know, that was the plan. And suddenly trying to make him sympathetic, and it created a confusion. So you had scenes telling you one thing, and other scenes telling you another thing. So one of the weird confusions was it was set up one way, and then they added a scene earlier in the beginning of the film that added another plot line, and then it was done a different style of acting from before the other scenes happened, and it adds a plot line of Johnny trying to get his memory back that gets in the way of the film completely. It does not really, you don't need it. It's just there basically to make the character look more sympathetic, because otherwise he's just a criminal basically. And that's what was good about the film. Actually, the best part of the film was he wasn't likable, and every so often you just see him try and make him likable. And it's just so weird. And the film also suffered from, to get funded, they had to go and shoot in Toronto. And you've actually got Ronald Sanders, who was the David Cronenberg editor, editing it. And you need other people who would work with Cronenberg later as well, on the production side as well, on this film. So it was a Canadian short film. But they because of the union, they had to have a Canadian DP. And they were going to have Michael Chapman, who did Raging Bull and a lot of Scorsese films, as the DP. Because of the shoot in Canada, they weren't allowed to use him. So they had to have someone else who was experienced but was traditional, and who was not really interested in the film. And the film ended up looking cheap and like a TV movie a lot of the time. It was not like it was a disastrous decision. Apparently, there was one producer on the film who was found it very difficult to understand what Longo was going after, and he was always pushing them to go the more commercial way. Part of the reason for that was this came out just after Speed. Now, Speed was a massive hit with Keanu Reeves, and they wanted another Speed. And this film was not it. This film could never be it. It was never meant to be it. The characters were completely different, and it was a situation where what it wanted to be was different from what the producers wanted to be. They could see a big hit coming because of the star, but the film wasn't that. It never would be that. And also Columbia at the time, this has come up. Columbia at the time was having problems with Mary Riley, which they thought was going to be the big hit. So they pushed this one instead, and then both of them bombed. And they're both films I like. So So Mary Riley's coming soon. The actual, I've got that in Blu-ray now as well. So the film was released and it did not do well. It was hated. It was a painful experience for everybody. No one liked the final result, and people talked about it as if it was a complete disaster. And people were amazed when Keanu Reeves did The Matrix a few years later that he would do it, and people would actually have a minute after joining Mnemonic. That's how toxic his reputation was in the late 90s. It was roundly hated. But time cures all, it seems. As we went on, as the film had his life and people got to see a bit more and understand it, became a cult film because people could see there was something there that was interesting. Even though it didn't entirely work, there was some interesting ideas there. There was the idea of this courier who, because the internet was so corrupted and so hacked, they needed to actually put their pure data in the heads of people and have them transported from one place to the other rather than online, because you couldn't trust online. That was a cool idea. Like, some people call it stupid. It's like, no, that's how things get have this. There are various ways to transport information or goods, and the big thing in history is how do you transport what you want to be kept safe, and sometimes you have to be a bit more ingenious with it. So a lot of people hated that one idea, which is the central idea of the film. There was also Keanu Reeves was told to act a bit robotic because it's a guy who has lost his memory, a lot of his memory, and he's only like half a person ultimately because his foundation is gone, and he's basically out for the money, and it's a cool performance. And then, but people are like, "What's he doing? What's he doing? And why is he so selfish?" And it's like, because the character's selfish. It's like, what do you expect from this character? He's meant to be selfish. So there was things like that. There was also some performances, like Henry Rollins was terrible in this film. No matter what you can do, he's still fairly bad in this film. He just does not work. He yells his dialogue so often. It's like, Jesus Christ, someone tone him down a bit. And if you do feel the actors were left on their own a lot of the time, so it's like the performances are all over the place. That's a legitimate beef for the film, no matter what you do with it. But it's not as bad in this black and white cut. The film also, it had some fun stuff, even the old version. Dolph Lundgren as this priest who's also a killer, who's killing people for the bounty to keep his body working because it's all mechanical. That works. That's always a lot of fun. Ice-T's in it as the guy who runs the underground. He's very Ice-T'd. No one's asked me to do anything else than Ice-T, but it works fine for what it is. And generally, the film has that feel of they've added like lots of dialogue replacements and things like that to explain things or to add jokes to try and make it more fun. And it sometimes feels like a movie that people want to make and sometimes it doesn't. And that's the film. Now, Robert Longo, who directed it, was not happy with the final result, but there was not much he could do about it. He couldn't really recut it because it was actually had a lot of its problems during production. So even tell stories on the desk about not being able to shoot some of the shots he wanted because the DP wouldn't do it. The DP would just go to one of the producers who hated him to tell on him if he wanted to do something weird. So that was a problem, obviously. And so the film never quite had the hallmark of what Longo wanted. And to me, Miles Boss originally was meant to be an art house film, was about $2 million, meant to be black and white, and it was in colour, and the colours didn't look right. The colours just felt like it was shot for TV. So years later, he decided to mess around with it and turn it back to black and white to see what it looked like. And he liked what he saw, and he was saying put it on YouTube, and then when the producers heard about it, asked to see it, but one of the producers who he got on with. So he showed him that, and the producer liked it as well. So he actually went to Sony, who was one of the producers on it back then, and they liked the result too. And they were like, okay, we'll invest a bit of money to do this properly, to actually color correct it with a a person knows what they're doing to put this out on home video. So they did that, and the film was released again last year on this DVD, and it had some or Blu-ray, and it also had some theatrical showings, which did very well. Was sold out, and the black and white really helps the film. And the main way it helps it is it helps with the tone. The tone of the film feels very different now. It feels much more doom laden. It feels much more like there's a direction the way the film's trying to go. The problem with the old version of the film in colour was it felt very aimless. It was telling you what the plot wanted you to know to where you're going to go, but it felt like they were wandering around these back streets a lot of the time because they were shot terribly. They were shot again. I'm trying not to keep repeating this, but they were shot like a TV movie. They were really the DP did not put the effort into protect the special effects, to protect the actors. It was not a well-crafted job by the DP. Is the nicest way I can put it. Now with the black and white, they've managed to pull all the color out, and you can see the framing is a bit more ambitious just by losing the color. Now the characters look they're in an actual proper world that's more interesting than what we saw before, because taking away the color makes the actual world was meant to be downtrodden and doom laden feel that way now. So you can understand where the characters are coming from. Like Ice-T now looks like a character in that landscape rather than being just a rapper in a weird suit, basically. Keanu Reeves in his black and white suit looks like a film noir guy, a doomed film noir guy, and you now wish you'd just taken a bit more of the stuff out now because they released the original cut but in black and white, and you wish they'd lost a couple of the scenes because even black and white can't save certain things, but it can add a sense of atmosphere and a sense of a world collapsing, and it brings out a lot more of what was there, which was the sense of darkness, the sense of depression, the sense of the corporations taking over and taking over the pharmaceutical companies. The health is now going to be like what make most profits. There's a disease in this film which is set in 2021 that's destroying the world, and the pharmaceutical companies want to they have a cure, but they want to release it piecemeal so they can make large profits off it. Wow, I wonder what that has bizarre parallels to. It's like it feels kind of very timely, and it's just a sense of the way we're living our lives now, where the corporations do feel like this, that jobs are disappearing, people are made criminals just by the fact there's no opportunities. That all comes through in the black and white version more. An idea that these guys who are like Johnny, who become these couriers, these mnemonic couriers, they've just become greedy to try and get something to actually live in the protected part of the world where they don't have to struggle to survive like they do in the poor part. And it's like the have-nots has got much wider on this film, and they actually sense it a lot more with black and white. It's just something that's always inescapable now, rather than something that was not even there in the original cut. The whole mood's changed. And so when we get a lot of screen, and you get the CGI effects, they now look quaint and very strange rather than just cheap. They just look like stylization. And the stylizations already in the film now look a lot better. The color schemes, because it's just black and white, the variations of like from hard black to grey to white, it feels much more interesting and part of the world. And I just feel the world's rotting a lot more. Film makes the world just feel it's ready to collapse. It's get tetanus or something. It just feels like a world ready to go. And even like the crazy idea of the dolphin, who's developed intelligence, watched a little bit in black and white. It just feels another crazy part of the world that's gone awry, rather than a weird special effect. It looked a bit fake. Looks a lot less fake in this version. So it's a big success, this version. It's not perfect, but it's a vast improvement just having it in black and white. It really helps the film feel like it's something that's cohesive. And that's what black and white can bring to some films. That's why a lot of black and white films just feel so pleasurable. It just adds something. I think sometimes color just becomes bland, but black and white tends, even a weaker film, tends to still be beautiful. So I would recommend joining Mnemonic in the black and white version. It's definitely something to see. So go watch it. It's, you know, if you look, you'll probably get a decent price if you're interested. Okay, that's me for now. I'll see you later. Bye.